Hello, everybody. Welcome to Meet Docubee. We are so excited to introduce you to our all-in-one contract automation platform today. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to the team that we have on the webinar. My name is Ariana Latour. I'm a product marketing manager here at Docubee. I'm going to be giving you an introduction to Docubee, and I'm going to be moderating the webinar. I'm joined today by Sarah Saray, who is a pre-sales engineer for Docubee. Sarah is a master workflow builder, and she's going to be the one giving us a tour of the platform. Sarah will also be answering your questions at the end of the webinar in our live Q&A session, but we don't want you to feel like you need to wait until the end. If you have any questions that you can think of while we're going through the presentation, you can go ahead and send them in through the question section on the GoToWebinar panel. And with all of that housekeeping out of the way, let's talk about Docubee. So Docubee was founded in 2017 when Accusoft CEO realized that paper contracts and wet signatures were becoming a really significant pain point for the sales team. And while there were e-signature and contract management solutions on the market already, they were really complicated, they were very rigid and super expensive. And so he knew that there had to be a better way to handle the problems that we were having. Docubee was specifically designed to simplify every stage of the contract process with a really easy to use and intuitive user experience, and all with customer care at the heart. We really pride ourselves on our transparent pricing and our dedication to top-notch customer service. We're super invested in the success and support of our customers. We like to say that, we like to grow and scale with you and your business. And we're regularly complimented on how wonderful it is to work with our customer success teams, as well as how open we are to working with our customers and supporting their unique needs and use cases. So let's take a look at what some of those needs are for our customers. When it comes to contract management, these are four of the most common challenges that we hear about in the industry and from our users. The number one being project delays. Project and sales cycle delays are one of the biggest pain points in contract management. And we hear that businesses lose an average of $1.5 million in revenue every year, or about 2% of their business. 71% of businesses have difficulty finding and renewing their existing contracts when they're coming due to inefficient processes and storage. High operational cost, 51% of contracted projects end up going over budget due to operational inefficiencies and just really high costs. And poor resource coordination leads to frequent project interruptions, compliance issues, and overall just a lot of wasted time. So let's take a look at how Docubee helps. Docubee helps you maximize the ROI of your contracts by accelerating every part of the contract lifecycle and providing a centralized place for contracts to be created, executed, and tracked. You can easily gather information, whether that's from your customers, through forms, through your databases, and you can use it to instantly generate contracts from your templates. Sharing allows you to route them for review and approval based on your custom process, however that is for your specific business and use case, and collaborate with internal and external teams to edit and redline in real time, all on the same platform. And once everyone's in agreement, you can collect legally binding e-signatures on any device. The best part is because all of these steps are happening inside Docubee, you can gain immediate insight into where contracts are in the process and easily find executed contracts when it's time to renew them. Finally, you can integrate Docubee with your existing systems, or you can build our contract management into your own applications with our APIs. I'm going to go ahead and hand things over to Sarah now so that she can dive into what it looks like actually using these features in Docubee.
Great, thanks, Ariana. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in to the dashboard of Docubee. So again, my name is Sarah Saray. I'm a sales engineer at Docubee. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. And I think kind of the best way to walk through the platform is to think about, let's say, a document that you need to get signed. How complex or how difficult is it to finally get that document signed and sealed? And it just depends on the use case, right? Sometimes you just need to get a signature. There's no real approval process in place. It's very straightforward. Well, we have a function for that to streamline that for you, and we call that quick sign. The next level of maybe complexity that that document might involve is maybe you need to create the document from scratch and collaborate on it with multiple people before you get that document signed. We can do that with our contract management platform. So that'll be the next component we'll go over. And then lastly, for the most complex business processes, where documents need to be routed to multiple parties. There's an approval and a declining process or workflow in place. We have our workflow function, which can accommodate that. So virtually any business use case we'll be able to streamline for you. The first thing we'll go into, like I said, is that quick sign function here. So the dashboard is typically where you'll first start when you log in to this browser-based platform, Docubee. And let's say you do need to get a document signed. I'll just go ahead and click on that sign document button. And you'll notice here there are multiple ways to bring in a document. I can upload documents directly from my computer. We have some pre-built templates for you, actually quite a few pre-built templates for you that you can use. Many of our customers are also using some central repository like a Google Drive, a Box, and then we have our own library where you can house pre-built templates in Docubee directly, so you don't have to constantly start from scratch and upload documents from your computer. I am actually going to upload a document here because I want to use this one document for all of the components of Docubee so you can kind of better visualize the level of complexity that we can support. So as I bring this document in, what I'm actually bringing in here is, let's say, a change order document for a construction company, maybe someone who does either light residential or heavy commercial construction. It really varies, of course, what a change order would be used for. You'll notice here that I'm assigning signing parties if I do need to get this document signed right away. I can add up to 6 signing parties to a document. So certainly for more complex documents, we definitely support that. I can also have a signing order in place, which means Docubee is going to wait for this first person to sign the document before it gets sent to the next person. You can change around the order. You certainly don't have to have a signing order in place. And then there are security layers that you can have in place as well. Maybe this is sensitive information, a password needs to be entered in. We also have 2-factor authorization where they can be texted a code as well to view the document. I'll explain what these squiggly lines and percent signs mean in a second. That's going to come into play when we look at our workflow function. But you can see here I've uploaded a document from my computer. It can be a PDF, it can be a docx file, okay? And now I can go ahead and prepare the document before we send it out for signature. This is all point and click. That's the great thing about Docubee is I don't have to code anything on the back end. I can go ahead and just place those fields that need to be filled out and then actually drill in on the back end of those fields and decide which ones are required, which ones are optional, which of those signing parties need to fill out those fields. You'll notice there's a color coding in place as well. That's super important. The more signing parties you have, right, to keep all that straight. We can also have fields be pre-filled. Okay, so maybe I always want my date fields filled out when they open up that document. It's one less thing that they have to complete. Now, once I'm ready to have that document signed, I still have additional options before I send it out. We can go ahead and actually name this document for future use. And I can also set an expiration date on it. Okay, so that's, driving that urgency, especially for contracts that need to be signed, of course, is really important. And here I'm asked if I do want to save this as a template. So that template library that you saw earlier, here's the opportunity I have. Once I send that document out, save it. That way, going forward, if I do need to pull up that change order again, it's just fixed. There are no variables in it. I don't need to place the fields on top of it again. It's already saved. And that's where it takes me straight to that library of those pre-built templates. Now, I've gone ahead and sent out the document for signature. And here is what an email notification might look like from your company. You'll notice that you have the ability to put your branding over all email notifications that are being sent from Docubee, your logo, your color scheme. anything that you're using down to the hex code. We want to make sure we're being really precise here. If I did enter in a name, of course, that's going to populate on the email as well to personalize it. Now, when I go ahead and click on the document, the UI is very straightforward. I can just go ahead and click into those fields. Now, how is it that I'm able to click into those fields? Of course, I've used Docubee before. It's got my initials and signature saved, but I can go ahead and configure that the very first time that I'm using it. And of course, I'm an external user in this scenario, right? So I think I added a date field instead of adding a signature field. I raced through that. But of course, there would be a signature field there if I had placed the right field on the document. Okay, and it's just going to work through that order that we set from the beginning. And of course, here's the second person in that order that's received that email notification to go ahead and sign. If I navigate back over to the QuickSign component of Docubee, you'll notice here there's essentially a dashboard showing me and tracking the progress of all completed and outstanding documents that still need to be signed. So I can actually click into those documents that are in progress, see who signed it, also see who's viewed it. Maybe they haven't signed it yet. They've just looked at it. I get that information here as well. I can preview the document that's been signed so far, download it. I can also grab links to resend or reassign that document to another signing party to sign. Great. So that's the first component of Docubee. The second component of Docubee, which is our contract management system, is to really address kind of the next layer of complexity. Maybe you've got a process that it just can't be that straightforward. You can't just upload a document and get it signed. You really need to craft the document together with other people on your team, or maybe with people externally. There's maybe a redlining workflow that's happening. So in this contract section, you'll see that I have different stages of contracts that those contracts are living in. If I want to go ahead and upload or create a contract from scratch, I have the same ability that I had with that quick sign function or similar ability. So let's take that same document that you saw in that quick sign function. We'll upload it again, or you know what, I'll just pull it from my template here, library template. And now it takes me to this function within Docubee that essentially is a word processing platform. It looks very similar to a Google Docs, a Microsoft Word. Virtually all of that function that you would use external to Docubee, you now have it in the platform. So I have the ability, let's say, as the document owner, before I stick fields on it and get it signed, to actually make those changes and edits for further customization. Once I'm ready to have other people's inputs, I can go ahead and share that with someone on my team. And I get to control the level of feedback and changes that they can make. So maybe I don't want them to give full editing abilities. They can go ahead and suggest changes, and they're going to receive an email notification. And if I just go over to this incognito window to pull that up, that user that I just shared the document with got notified that they have a document to review. Now, when they open it up on their end, and it looks like I just opened the wrong email, let's go to this one. There it is. A couple of things you'll notice. So the first is that I actually don't have the ability to edit, right? You saw that other user, I'm kind of switching hats here. I don't have the ability to make those edits and any change that I do make, whether it's deletions, additions, I can of course make comments. Again, very similar to a Google Docs. Not only will the other users internally to this group actually see those changes, these changes are being made in real time. You can see the timestamp, who made those changes. They'll of course add text if they need to explain that. You also have the ability, of course, to reply to those changes, but also make additions to what they've made changes to. And then once you're ready, you can, of course, approve, accept, all at once or individually as well. So lots of control there as far as what other people within your team can view and make edits on. The big value of this, of course, is now I can go ahead and send it to someone externally, someone who's not a Docubee user, someone who's not part of my business. You know, maybe I do want them to actually review this change order beforehand before we go ahead and go through an approval and signing ceremony. Okay, and so it's just a rinse and repeat, right? They'll get an email notification to go ahead and make their changes and suggestions. We'll go ahead and either approve or decline those changes. And then once we do that, here's really the kind of one of the biggest pains that we've solved for a lot of our customers, which is when they're doing this without the help of Docubee, they're actually generating a contract on Microsoft Word or on Google Docs, and then they're uploading it into an e-sign signature platform. And of course, anytime you're uploading a document externally to another platform, you certainly have room for error, right? The other thing to highlight is that as people are making changes to the document, it really helps to have a version history, right? So you can actually see who made changes along with the associated timestamp, of course. And you can even get more granular, like maybe the change is really subtle and you need to see a side-by-side comparison of the documents. You can certainly do that as well. The last thing I want to show here before we jump into the workflow is this contract details tab. So this is really important because it's great to be able to create a contract and to execute it, but especially for contracts with dollar values associated with them, I need to be able to track them. I need to be able to make sure that I'm staying on top of them. So contracts that need to be renewed, right? If recurring revenue is a big chunk of your business's revenue, making sure that they don't expire. Change orders, service agreements, anything with a dollar value to them, I can go ahead and assign those properties to these documents and then run a report. And that report will actually dynamically update based on, you know, as the properties of those documents are getting updated. So for example, this is a running report of all of my change orders. And so what that means is every time I create a new change order and I classify it as that, it's going to get dumped into this report. And now I can really keep track of it. I can create reports based on expiration dates of those documents, renewal dates, contract values, right? And actually order them based on the value. So I can really know exactly where to focus my efforts. Great. So in the interest of time, it's always hard to stay high level with these because there's just so much to show. But in the interest of time, I do want to jump into the last component of Docubee, which is our workflow component. And here is where we're going to handle your most complex business processes. So it's more than, in this case, getting a document signed, collaborating internally and externally. Not only that, but let's say for your business, you needed to get declined or approved, and you need Docubee to route it depending on whether you got that document declined or approved. We can also do things like generate documents. So let me go ahead and exit out of some of these tabs here. So we're going to take that same change order document and now do some other things with it, right? More complex workflow. What you're seeing here is the very first step of a workflow in Docubee, and that's called a web form. And the purpose of that web form is to grab information that you need to be placed on the document and replaced on multiple documents if needed to. I've gone ahead and pre-filled some of these fields so that you don't have to see me filling out all of these fields. You'll notice that some of these fields, just like on that quick sign, can be pre-filled here. Fields can be optional or required. And as I'm typing in, you'll notice here that we also have different field types So I can have drop-down fields. I can have fields appear based on how you've answered previous questions. So there's a lot of conditional logic that's built into the Docubee workflow. We can also do calculations. So let's say that this is my original contract amount. This new contract that we're generating is going to add 12,000 to it. So obviously I need to know what that new amount is. I didn't build in the arithmetic here, but we can certainly have it spit out that number. So my math is really bad. I'm going to say that that is 57,000. Now, when I hit continue on this web form, we're going to have a document, which is that same change order document with that information that we entered, be imprinted onto the document. So there's an example of the layer of complexity, right? It grabbed all of that information, and we can grab virtually anything. It could be numbers and dates and all sorts of text. But you'll see here it's really updating those variable components of a document that would otherwise be kind of fixed text. And now I have the option to do a couple of things. In this particular example, I can go ahead and, before this document is ready to be sent out for signature, make those changes and edits, just like you saw in that contract management piece. But now I have the added functionality of either going forward, continuing. So maybe I'm the GC in this scenario, and I've approved it and it looks good. I'll move forward with it. Maybe I'm not happy with it. It needs to get routed back to another step or to another viewer of this workflow. And I can go ahead and decline and have it routed. I'll say, like, with all of our customers who are using Docubee, I mean, there really are no two business processes that are exactly the same. And so with workflow, it is totally custom to how you need to execute steps, but also streamlined. Like, you may have redundant steps, right, where you're re-entering information all the time. Well, why not take that information on that web form and stamp it onto multiple documents in one step, so you're not having to constantly re-enter and do double and triple data entry. Now, in this workflow that I built out, you can see that I made some changes and edits, deleted some portions, and now I can either have this be emailed to someone internally or externally to get notified, hey, you've got a document for review, or I can go ahead and internally view it without an email notification. It's really what you need it to do for you. In addition to email notifications, there are email reminders. So that's one of those common questions we get, which is, can you send reminders? What if it landed in their spam folder? They can get reminded that they have something to complete. And you can, of course, always grab it from Docubee and resend it to them, or have them just be reminded and get it that way. The last thing I wanted to show is, I showed you the reporting for the contract management, and there's also kind of a reporting for the workflow side as well. So if we go over into, this is the name of the workflow that you just saw that I ran. I have a dashboard showing me all of the runnings or instances of this workflow that are still in progress. So, why aren't those documents getting signed? What stage is it stuck in? You'll notice here that I have some numbers and dates and names. I can actually customize the naming of this dashboard to show me the most important pieces of information. So here what I did was I put the contract value to show up. So if I need to reorient this or maybe search for a particular contract value, I can pull that up, click into it, see who has done what on this workflow, and maybe even generate a new link to resend to a participant to go ahead and complete that workflow. And of course, documents can be accessed here as well. So any documents that are either uploaded in that web form, you do have the ability to upload photos and documents, or documents that we send out for signature, we can access those. there's so much more that we can talk about that I'd love to go through, and we can do that on a more customized demo for you all, for each of you. But in the interest of time, I'll stop right there in case there are any questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. And she is indeed right. We covered a lot, but we have kind of just scratched the surface of all the things that Docubee can do. So if you have any questions, go ahead and enter them into the question panel and go to webinar so that we can get them answered for you here. I do have a few that came in while we were going through the demo, so we will get started there. We have, what kind of security protocols are in place to protect sensitive information and contracts?
Great question. There are a few. So the first thing is Docubee is hosted on Amazon Web Services. I don't think there is a server-based company that has greater security protocols than AWS. The other thing is the encryption, the level of encryption that's in transit for any information that's sent from Docubee. You also have the ability, which I didn't show you on in this particular example, but you can have email notifications showing or giving you the ability to download documents, so download links. Those links expire after 2 weeks. Those download tokens expire after 2 weeks to ensure that, again, that information is not out in the open in cyberspace. We're also SOC 2 Type 2 compliant and HIPAA compliant. So we have many law firms, healthcare companies who we work with. So that, of course, is extremely important.
Definitely is. Thanks, Sarah. Let's see. We have, there's a lot of them. I'm trying to cherry pick because we only have a couple minutes left. Can I restrict access to certain contracts or information in the platform? That's a good one.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a great question too. You certainly can. So we have what we call role-based permissions. You can get pretty granular with individuals, who has access to documents, who does not, who can simply view contracts, who can actually make changes. So there's kind of a hierarchy that you can set up within Docubee to view that and to control that.
Awesome. Thank you. We only have about a minute left, so I'm going to go ahead and start getting us wrapped up here. There are questions in this channel that we have not answered yet, but we will answer them, I promise. If we didn't get to your question live today, someone from our team will follow up with you via the email address that you used to register for today's event to make sure that it gets addressed. So, all right. Can you go to the last slide of the deck for me, Sarah?
Oh, yes. Thank you. I
Thank you.
stopped sharing prematurely.
No,
Um,
you are all good. So
let's
we hope that everything was really helpful for you guys today on the webinar, maybe sparked some ideas on how Docubee can help you fly through your contracts. If you would like to chat with a Docubee specialist about your specific process, you can scan the QR code that's on the screen to schedule a custom demo. There will also be a little pop-up survey that comes up after the webinar closes where you can request a demo and a team member will reach out to you to get that scheduled. We'll also be sending out the recording of today's webinar via email, probably tomorrow morning, if you'd like to review any part of it, or if you'd like to share the session with colleagues, maybe somebody on your team that you think could find it helpful or couldn't make it. And that recording is also available on our website in the resources section under videos. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you being here, and we hope that you have a great day.